Good afternoon. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, I've had my second cup of coffee just before I started. So if I get to where I'm talking too fast, please indicate. You can just all go. That means slow down, because I get very excited about my subject. Okay. Like she said, I've had 20 plus years of experience teaching English or being involved in English education. I sort of fell into it. I got my degree in anthropology and realized I was going to continue waiting tables if I wanted to have a sustainable income. So I decided to go to Taiwan and teach English for 6 months. Well, 6 months turned into a year turned into 5 years, and in that time I taught everything from children to senior citizens. And I realized that I really loved teaching. I really got a kick out of it. I enjoyed working with students, and I wanted to continue. So at that point I got my master's, and since then I've just been working all around Asia actually, except not really in Korea. This is only my second time to Korea, except for the airport. I've been to the Seoul airport many, many times. I know it very, very well, but I don't actually know Korea that well. Last time I was here for about 36 hours. I came in at night, I worked the next day, and then I left the next morning. So on this trip, I have a whole week. So I'm very excited to go and look at the city, as well as to eat some delicious food. I had something last night. I don't know what it was. The waitress didn't speak English, and she brought me some food, and I said, oh, it was very good. So, anyway, I'm looking forward to working with some of you later in the week as well. I think some of you will be at some of my sessions. So, today I'm going to be talking about something that I'm quite excited about. I've been doing research into this for like the last couple of years. And the more reading and research I do, the more excited I get about it. So I will be talking about how to incorporate songs and stories into young learner classes, but I'll be coming at it from a brain-based approach. So how many of you have heard of brain-based education? Wow, very few. That's great. That means we have a lot to learn today. So those of you who have never heard of it, I hope this will spark your interest and you'll go and do further investigation on your own. I'll give you some resources, some websites to look at, some suggestions for books that might be interesting to you, and you can carry on if it interests you. For those who already know about brain-based approaches, I hope that you learn some more insight into it today. So, I'll tell you a bit about what brain-based education means. Brain-based education is looking and using the most recent research in neuroscience. Neuroscience means looking at the brain. So it's looking at all of these new ideas about how the brain actually functions, as well as how the brain actually learns. Now, some people might think this is a bit redundant, yeah? Because brain-based, well, everything we do in the class is brain-based, right? So why are you calling this brain-based? It's kind of silly. But in actuality, the brain-based education looks at how some of the practices we're already using are actually not productive for the brain. That they're actually counter how the brain actually works. And we'll talk a little bit about that today. So this is a relatively new area of research, and that means that there's still things to learn every day. There's people doing a lot of research now, so there's lots of things happening now. Some of the research I'll talk about today may be untested. It may need further testing, but a lot of it has already been duplicated and retested so that it's applicable. Yeah. So this field is now being recognized as very important. And in fact, you can go and get a master's degree or even a PhD in brain-based education. One of the more prominent universities is Johns Hopkins University in America, and also Harvard. Harvard offers a PhD in mind, brain, and education. So it's something that's gaining a lot of precedence. Now, during the presentation today, I'm going to be asking you to be participating. I hope you're all keen on participating. Yes or no? Yes. Yeah, okay, good. So I'm going to be asking you to move around a little bit, to talk with the people sitting around you, to do some work together. And during the entire presentation, I'd like for you to be thinking about, how can I use this information? The most important thing for you as teachers is not taking notes and learning every single thing, but it's at least taking away something that you can use in your class next week. So when you go in your class on Monday, I want you to say, oh, I heard this great idea from that guy. What was his name? Oh, I don't remember his name, but it was a great idea, and I'm going to try this in my class today. So even if you can just take away one or two big ideas, I'm very happy. So I'll try to give a little time for questions at the end, but I almost always say that, and I almost never do. So if you do have questions, feel free to ask me after the presentation, or I will give you my email, and I'm happy to answer questions that way as well. Okay, let's get started. So we're going to start off by doing a little quiz. We're going to do a quiz. How many of you like quizzes? Yeah, good. Okay, this is a true-false quiz. And I know, I should also explain, sorry. You already have the slides, but I made changes. About, I would say, at least 10 to 15% of the slides have changed. If you want the originals, I'll email them to you. No problem. And the changes aren't huge, but I have rearranged things and as I re-looked at them the last few days. Okay, so this quiz is a true-false quiz. So if you think the answer is true, I want you to stand up. If you think the answer is false, you can stay seated. Now, I don't want you all to just sit there and say, oh, false, false. Sure, it's false. And just relax. I want you to think about it, and if it's true, stand up. Let's practice. My name is Alan. That's true. That's true. That's true. That's true. Okay. I am 23 years old. Thank you. Very much. Yay! My favorite. Okay, so you get the idea, yeah? True or false? First question, or first statement. We only use 10% of our brains. Stand up if you think it's true. Sit down if you think it's false. Don't be shy. You're not expected to know all the answers, really. Okay, for those of you standing up. We use all of our brain. This is a very common misperception. This is a very common belief, yeah? That we only use 10% of our brain. What if we use 20% or 30% of our brain? Wow! We actually use all the different parts of our brain. Every part of our brain has different function, yeah? For instance, our cerebellum here controls our motor actions. So for me to stand up means something is happening back here. For when I ask you to stand up, things happen here. Okay? This part of our brain contains rational thoughts. Rational thoughts. Teenagers don't have much of this. That's why they cause so much problem, yeah? Okay. Now, we don't use all of our processing ability, but we do use much more than 10% of it. So, we're using all of our brain. Are you ready for the next one? Intelligence is fixed and unchanging. So you know we get that IQ score. That's fixed and unchanging. True, stand up. False, sit down. Whoa, very good. Oh, I have nothing more to say then. You guys got it all. Okay, yeah. Intelligence varies from day to day, year to year, month to month. We try to quantify it, yeah? We try to give it that fixed number. So I say, oh, you took the IQ test and you got a 90. So you're not very intelligent, and therefore I'm not going to pay much attention to you. But in actuality, we can raise that intelligence through enriching activities, engaging classes. We can actually maximize the potential of all of our students and raise the intelligence of any student. In fact, research shows that those students that get the lowest scores can actually increase the most. So we can bring those, instead of marginalizing and pushing those students into special classes, we can actually raise that level of intelligence. On the other hand, we can also decrease intelligence. So if our classes are not maximizing all of these opportunities we have, we can actually lower the intelligence of the student. And our intelligence can also lower if we don't continue using our brains to do stimulating and, intellectual activities. Okay, you guys did very well on that one. Learning is an emotional process. True, stand up. False, sit down. Learning is an emotional process. I can see a lot of you are going, this seems like a trick question. Those of you standing up, very good. Learning is an emotional process. How many of you can remember sitting in a class and being terrified that the teacher is going to call on you? Well, how much do you think you learned on that day? Not much, right? Because you're too scared to actually learn. Everything we experience, everything. Just walking down the street is an emotional process. Everything we do, everything we experience goes through our emotional filter. Everything goes through an emotional filter. And everything that we experience, we either accept and say, good, or we reject. I'll actually talk about this a lot later on. Okay, so those who stood up, very good. Next question, or next statement. I think this is an easy one. All children learn in the same way. True or false? True, stand up. False, sit down. Yeah, I thought you guys would get that one. I wanted to give you a chance to relax. Yeah, children, adults, everybody learns in different ways, yeah? Some of us learn better by hearing, some of us by seeing. I need to write everything down if I want to remember. If I don't write it down, I'll forget, for sure. So all of us learn in different ways. So, what does that mean? I heard it.
We should teach differently.
Yeah, you have to have a lot of different ways to teach, a lot of different kinds of activities, a lot of variety in your classes, yeah? And I'll probably say that about 100 times today. Last one, are you ready for the last one? Students like routines and surprises. True or false? True, stand up. False, sit down. The answer is true. Those of you standing up, very good. Our children, I should have put children actually. Children really like the safety of knowing what's going to happen, yeah? They feel safer if they know that from this time to this time they're going to do this, from this time to this time they're going to do this, that the teacher is going to act like this. That makes them safe, that makes them comfortable. But at the same time, they also like to be surprised. And their brain really likes to be surprised. In fact, our brain likes surprises, not terrifying surprises, but surprises. It actually gets things moving a bit to be surprised, to have something new. Ooh, I got 3 shots there. Okay. All right, very good. So, I know I'm in the die-die position. As they say in Singapore, they say the die-die position is where you're the last speaker of the day and everyone's really tired. So I'm going to die up here unless I keep you guys really busy, right? So here's the takeaways. By the end of the day, I want you to remember this. Yeah? And I want you to be able to have an example of this. So after we talk about this, I'll let you guys talk for a second, and then you can go to sleep if you need to. And then I'll wake you up at the end, and you have to remember this, okay? So, number one, learning is not an isolated event. We tend to think of learning as like happening in a vacuum, yeah? But learning is affected by everything. Tell me one thing that affects learning. Anything. The weather. Whether you're sleepy or not. Emotions. Somebody already said it, yeah. How boring your teacher is. How exciting your teacher is. The guy sitting next to you. Maybe chewing gum really loud. Whether your pencil is sharp enough. All of these things affect education. The way you learn. Every single bit affects the way you learn. Yeah? So it's not isolated, but all these other things need to be taken into account. Two, we already talked about this one. Every student learns in a unique way. Nobody learns in the same way. Last, using stories and songs can increase the effectiveness of a lesson. I'll talk a lot about this. Be aware of it. Using stories and songs in an effective way can increase the effectiveness of a lesson. If I'm using a story and song as a worksheet, maybe not that effective. Huh? Maybe it doesn't get anything moving here. Okay. I'm going to let you guys talk to each other now for 2 minutes. I want you to choose one of the things I've already talked about, either in the quiz or one of these three. And I want you to talk to the person next to you about the implications of this on your class. So how can I use this to make a change in my class or to do something in my class? How does this affect your class? And only 2 minutes, so one person talks for a minute, another person talks for a minute, or have a conversation. And later I'm going to tell you why I did that, why I'm asking you to do that. So go ahead, talk to the person sitting next to you in 2 minutes. Anybody have a timer? My timer is too quiet for you to hear, but your 2 minutes are up. I'm glad to hear you guys really were talking. Sometimes I've done this and you just get like, okay, never mind. Let's do the next thing. Okay, good. So now we're going to get into the science now. How many of you love science? Yeah, good. I got some back there. I personally don't love science. So this is going to be really science light. Very science light. As you notice, the title of my presentation is Lighting Up the Brain. Lighting up the brain. So what you see here is some brain scans from an fMRI. And this is probably the main tool that neuroscientists are using now to actually carry out research. Now what this tool does is it measures activity in the brain. It measures blood flow and levels of oxygen in the brain. Now what it's showing you is what part of the brain is actually being activated. So where this activity is, where it's happening in your brain. Because like I said before, every experience comes from the brain. Yeah? Everything comes from our brain. So you can see, if we look at the top picture here, like there's something happening in the cerebellum, the place I talked about before. Yeah? And then you can see different parts of the brain are being lit up. So in actuality, your brain is not actually lighting up. That's just a phrase that they use to describe that activity is happening here. So this is the main tool that's being used by neuroscientists and researchers. So this is a very close-up picture of your brain. Now in your brain, you have two types of cells. The first one, glial, we're not going to talk about at all. It's until very, very, very recently, this one was seen as not very important. Though the most recent research says, oh, maybe there's more there that we're not catching. So I suspect that within the next few years, we're going to get some more evidence that on the part that it plays. But the one that we're going to talk about today is a neuron. A neuron. Now, a neuron, have you heard that before? Yeah, of course. A neuron looks kind of like this. You have the nucleus here. These are dendrites, and this is the axon. Now, when the brain is activated, say I kick something, all of a sudden I'm making a connection here. So I have the two neurons, and ching, I make a chemical reaction of some kind. This chemical reaction is called it's just making a connection between these things. Now, when we talk about brain-based education, we want to try to build and strengthen these connections. We want to make as many connections as we can. When we learn something new, we make a new connection. Let's say I have just as an example, if I have somebody doing a fill in the blank, I make a connection. But this connection may be quite weak. Maybe just ching, ching. Whereas if I have somebody acting something out and talking about it and singing about it and dancing about it, I may have all of these different connections. So this makes this idea very, very strong. So we want to strengthen these connections, build new ones, and activate. Yeah? So today we're going to be talking about how we can make these connections, how we can make strong connections, build new connections. Okay? So we have, I can still hear my timer going off. Stop. So we have two kinds of memory. Actually, we have three kinds of memory, but I'm not going to talk about the first one. The first kind of memory is short-term. Short-term memory is what you are using right now to pay attention. It's the kind of things we're using to get something done right now. Now, there's big debate on how many things we can have in our short-term memory. Some people say we can only hold 4 chunks of knowledge in our working memory at one time. Other people say we can hold 8 pieces of information at one time. It varies depending on which researcher you talk to. But for a young child, a very young child can only hold 1 piece of information in working memory or short-term memory. The older you get, the more information you can hold. So the short-term memory is like a whiteboard. So when I go to my class and I write my grammar point on the board, yeah? And then I hope, do you all get it? You get the grammar point? And then I erase it. Short-term memory is the same. I have the information I need, and then I erase it. So what we want to do as teachers is to move everything into our long-term memory. We want to move it from the whiteboard into the file cabinet. We want to store it so that we can get to it later. Now, we don't want to get to it. We don't just want to get to it. We want to get to that information as quickly as we can. So we want that information to be really easy to get to. So the way that we do that is to make stronger connections, yeah? The stronger the connection, the more readily we can get to that information and use that information again. So our goal as teachers is to move things not into memory for the test, which is a long-term memory, but we want to make that move from short-term memory into memory for life. We want students to be able to use that even past the test in 2 weeks. We want them still to be able to use all that information. Any questions? Oh, not only want to ask that. Okay, I'm sure you have questions. Okay, so short-term memory into long-term memory. So one way we do that is through doing brain-based education. Brain-based education. Now, these guys, Kane and Kane, are very famous in this field. They're one of the first groups that really proposed this field. If you're interested, their website is very, very interesting. And this is their 12 principles. You have it all there, and I'm not going to really go into detail. Because if I go through all 12 of these, then that will be maybe a whole day, that we talk about it. I'm going to break these principles down into 5 main ideas. Number 1, our brains always try to make sense of the world. We always want to make sense of the world. So no matter where we are, no matter what's happening, we want to make sense of the world. So even if you have a student who doesn't do any work, who looks like he hates class, he still is trying to make sense of everything. Just what's happening is not making sense to him or her at this moment. So they're trying to find another way. What happens with us is we try to make sense, and if we don't make sense, we put it in a different place than some place that might be useful for us to retrieve later. We don't like, none of our brains like useless things imposed upon them. So, for instance, no, I won't do that. Okay, so we don't like useless things imposed upon us by others. Let's go on. Learning is, number one, emotional. Yeah, this may be the most important aspect of learning that's being ignored until now. Learning has emotions have huge ramifications on whether we learn or not. I'm sure most of you have heard of the affective filter. Krashen, long time ago, Krashen said, when students feel scared or anxious or nervous, they put up this wall. They put up this wall. They block incoming information. When we feel something, we only have two basic emotions. We have two primary emotions. We move toward something, or we move, anyone want to guess? Away. Good, thank you. We're either moving towards something or we're moving away from something. So if I have a class that is scary, where am I going? I'm going away from that class. If I have a class that is really fun and engaging, I'm moving towards that class. So it's important that we realize that there are two options, really. Of course, there's lots of little sub-options, but there are two main options, toward or away. We want our students to come toward, not away. I remember my first language class. I studied Spanish in 6th grade. And I remember just being terrified that the teacher was going to ask me a question. And the teacher would go through the room like, blah, 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 blah. And I'd be going, 5, 6, okay. And try to figure out what question the teacher was going to ask me, Okay, she's going to, And then she would ask me the question, and just pray that I got it right, Terrified of that class. I absolutely hated that class. And how much Spanish do I remember from that class? Nothing. I blocked everything, I blocked it all. Okay, so the affective filter. Now, Krashen came out with this idea 25 years ago, but it's just now been shown that there is a lot of validity to what he was actually saying. Now, Kane and Kane, they suggest that not only is anxiety bad for the student, but something that's too easy is also bad. The same kind of thing happens if it's too easy. We also block it. It's like, same old stuff. It's not useful for the student to be too easy either. We want them to be comfortable, but not too comfortable, right? So they suggest the idea of relaxed alertness so that the student feels safe, but there are challenges and surprises. To feel safe, we have to have the tool to meet those challenges. And we have to have the support to meet those challenges as well. Okay, so learning is emotional. It's a huge factor. Learning is social. I'm sure you've heard this before. We learn from each other. We learn from social interactions. The way that we interact with our class affects how much we remember, how much we can use in the future. So try to use social activities in your classes. Learning is physical. This is sometimes surprising to people, but learning is, according to Kane and Kane, learning is a physiological, I can't talk. It's a full body experience. We learn with our bodies as much as we learn with our minds, I talked earlier about the cerebellum. Does anybody remember what the cerebellum is for? Movement. Yeah, it's for movement, for motor skills. The cerebellum is also where it affects our attention. Our attention. It also increases the effectiveness of our memory. So all of that is happening in the same place. So they have a bearing on each other. How much attention the student is able to pay, how effective they can retrieve information later. So let's do a little activity. Can I have 3 volunteers? 1, come. 2. Don't be shy. I'm going to pick somebody if somebody doesn't pick. Okay, come on down. It's all the foreigners that are coming down. I need a Korean. Next one is Korean. Come on, you don't be shy. Come on. Yeah. Don't be shy. Come on up on the stage. What's your name?
Evelyn.
Where are you from?
Ohio.
Oh, Ohio. Good. Hi. And what's your name?
Andrea.
From?
Texas.
Oh, Texas. Near me. I'm from Georgia. And what's your name?
My English name is Mandy.
And where are you from?
Korea.
Yay! Okay. We're going to do a little activity here. And you guys are going to you're going to help me out. So I want you to show me how to growl like a lion. Oh, very good. Okay. You're first then. Come on around. You're first. Good. Now this time I want you to really do it and then say the word as well. Growl. Wow, that's fantastic. Everybody stand up. We had a very good example. Now I want you to see you do it. Everybody growl. Oh, I saw some really wimpy growls out there. Okay, sit down. Next. You're going to do next.
Okay.
I want you to show me how to punch.
Punch.
Yeah. Now really get into it. And say the word.
Punch.
Whoa, very good, very good. We'll get to practice in a second. Let's see. For you, an easy one? Okay. Kiss. Kiss. You can do it. Oh, and say the word.
Kiss.
Oh, very good. Okay, one more time. Growl.
Growl.
Say the word growl.
Oh, growl.
Okay.
Punch.
Good.
Kiss.
Good. Stand up. We're all going to practice that, okay? Again.
Growl. Punch. Kiss.
Kiss. Okay. My 3 volunteers get a prize. For all of you that didn't volunteer, just pick whatever you like. Okay. Have a seat. Not you. Stand up. We're not done. Okay. Find a partner. Stand up. Find a partner. You two. Two. Okay. I want you to put your back to your partner. Back to back. Back to back. On the count of 3. Hey, where's your partner? Go over there, quick. Who doesn't have a partner? She needs a partner. Okay, go. Okay, on the count of 3, I want you to turn around, and you're going to either growl, punch, or kiss. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. That was pretty good, but I want you to really put some oomph into it this time. Are you ready? 1, back to back. Let's see some real action here. 1, 2, 3. Okay, last time. 1, 2, 3. Very good. Have a seat. Hey, what happened? I don't know what happened. Okay, so tomorrow, when you're thinking about this session, probably you'll remember this activity. Why? Because it's emotionally satisfying. It's social. You get to work with your friends, yeah? And it's also physical. So you're combining all three of these things. You're making a very strong connection. You're making some very strong connections. You may even remember the words. You may remember the words. You can use this kind of activity with any vocabulary you want to. Yeah. Give me a word. Lion. No. Okay. Lion. We did that one. Give me another word. Huh? Lunch. Yeah. Okay. So lunch. You can do lunch. You can do anything you like. Yeah. The point is not to use this activity, but the point is to try to meet all of these learning criteria or factors that can increase learning. All right. Learning is sensory. I wanted to put sensual, but people think that I'm talking about sex or something, and I'm not. Learning is not is sensual, but sensual actually means using the senses here. Learning, actually the first kind of memory I didn't talk about is sensory memory. But everything we experience comes through our senses, yeah? So whether the seat is comfortable affects your learning experience. Whether it's too hot or too cold. Whether you have a stomach ache affects your learning. Yeah? All of these things, all of these senses affect our learning. Now, how many senses do we usually use in class? Really? Think again. What senses do we usually use in class? Hearing, seeing, hopefully speaking a little bit. Oh, that's not a sense. Wait a second. So, usually we hear, we see. We might touch a pencil. We might touch a pencil. But how often are we actually saying, oh, this is smooth. Come touch this. This is smooth. Or this is hard. Come touch this. This is hard. It's actually sticky. Okay. This is sticky. Come touch it. It's sticky. So, and how often do we get to taste our lesson? How often do we get to taste our lesson? Do you have cooking class? Yay! That's fantastic. So you do get to taste. That's great. How many times? I forgot my other saints. Oh, smell. How many times do we get to smell our class? Yeah, sometimes, but not as much as it might be nice to do, yeah? We don't get to trigger these parts of our brain. We actually have a part of our brain for each of our senses, yeah? It goes to a specific part of our brain where we could be making some really strong connections in these different parts of our brain, right? Let's do a little exercise. This one's dangerous because it is the last session of the day, and some of you might be tired, but I'm going to try it anyway. I want you to think about running. How many of you like to run? Do you like to run? I used to like to run, but now not so much. I have to get back in that habit soon. Okay, how many of you hate running? Okay, well, that's okay. And we're going to still talk about it. So, I want you to think about running, and actually I want you to close your eyes. This is why it's dangerous, yeah? Close your eyes. I want you to think about running. You're putting on your running shoes, you're going outside, you're running. What do you see? So you're running, what do you hear? Okay, you're running. What do you smell? So maybe you smell something unpleasant. I think they smelled something bad back there. Okay, that's okay though. Smelling something unpleasant is still triggering a sense, right? So what do you feel? Do you feel your feet hitting the ground? Do you feel the sweat getting on your brow? Do you feel the wind in your face? What do you feel when you're out there running? Good. And what do you taste? Maybe your mouth gets kind of dry when you're running, yeah? Okay, open your eyes. Now, we just did that really, really quickly. But imagine if you're using a story and you can actually get students to try to really experience these things. Now, you're saying that's not really sensing, is it? But what happens when we imagine things? We actually trigger the same parts of our brain as if we were doing the activity itself. So when I really think about running, it triggers that same part as if I were really running. When I think even more in depth, like I feel my feet, I can really feel my feet. All of these parts of our brain are lighting up. We're making all of these connections. So the student really remembers running better because they've made all of these connections. And that's one of the beauty of stories, and I'll talk about that in just a second. So try to involve as many different kinds of senses as you can. Okay. Yeah, good. I'm going to pause again. I'm going to give you another 2 minutes to talk. Now, let me explain why I want to give you 2 minutes. I talked about moving things from short term to long term. The easiest way to move from from short term to long term is to think about how to use that information in the future. How to apply it. How does that have relevance in my life right now? Again, we're either moving towards something or away from something. So if we want to move towards it, we need to think about how it works for me right now or in my class on Monday. So I'm going to give you, again, 2 minutes. Choose one of these, or two of these if you like, and talk with the person next to you about how you may use it. Maybe you can talk to someone different. Up to you, up to you. Okay, 2 minutes, starting 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Okay. Wow, you guys are really fantastic. I wish I had a prize for all of you. Okay. I hope you are learning from each other as well as from me. So that's good. You guys know the Korean context better than me, right? So, good. Ooh. Well, it's halfway through and he finally gets to music. We're going to talk about music now. Before I talk about music, I want to know who can remember a song from when they were like 3 or 4 years old. Who can remember a song from when they were 3 or 4 years old? Only one person? Really? Okay, 2 people? You can remember 3? Okay. I think probably most people here can remember a song from when they're 3 or 4 years. Oh, who can remember a song from 1st or 2nd grade? Yeah. Who can remember a song in a different language from when they're like a foreign language, a second language? Okay. Yeah, I can actually remember a song. Frère Jacques, dormez-vous, dormez-vous. From, yeah, French. I don't speak any French. Why do I know that song? Really, I don't speak any French. But I remember that song from when I was a little kid. Yeah, it's stuck. It's never leaving, I think. Even when I get old and senile, I'll probably be like laying in my bed going, Frère Jacques. Yeah. On the other hand, remember I talked about that Spanish class I had, yeah? I remember this teacher. She always had this song that she was trying to get us to learn. And I swear I cannot remember that song at all. I was actually searching for it the other day, like just looking for common Spanish songs, thinking I'd be able to. It's gone. It's just, I cannot find it, you know. Why? Again, it's because I hated that class. I feared that class. I couldn't take it in. I couldn't take it in. So, music is really easy way to remember stuff, yeah? So, what happens when we use music? Music is one of the only things that affects every part of our brain. Music really affects every part of our brain. We're making such strong connections all through our brain with music. Listening to music, it affects our auditory cortex, the place where we take in sound, yeah? Our cerebellum is being affected, our hippocampus, all of these different parts of our brain are being activated. Now, if you're playing music, you get that sense of feeling, the tactile activation, even just the tapping, dancing. There's all these different areas of our brain that are being lit up. Even just listening to music, though, can light up a lot of our brain. And they actually say that if you're doing like a fill in the gap or something like that, or writing, you can have music playing in the background, and it will actually help you to complete the activity. It sparks the creative juices in your running through you, yeah? So you can use music, and they especially recommend things like Mozart. Apparently that's very good for sparking creativity when students are writing or doing activities. So music is very useful for teaching. So what happens? Why is it nice? Music engages us emotionally, right? We get really engaged to music. We really feel good when we hear music. Music can make us happy. Music can make us sad. Music can make us cry or jump for joy. Yeah, I can't sit. Some songs you just can't sit still for, right? So music really has an emotional impact. Even using sad music, though, you're still making these connections. So it's not like the sadness, the terror you feel from the clash. You might just feel sad, but it's not the same as being sad because your teacher is so mean. Okay? So music makes connections throughout our brain. Listening, like I said, the auditory cortex. Linguistics affects the other part of our brain that we use for listening to words and things like that. The physical, the cerebellum, like I talked about. And one other thing that it does is it develops this thing that connects the two parts of our brain. You know, we have two parts of the brain. Most of you know that, yeah? There's this thing in the middle called the corpus callosum. Music builds that. Listening to music actually builds that. So it makes the connection between our rational brain and our creative brains. It helps that connection. So it's really good for developing creativity, which is very important in the 21st century, yeah? Okay, and lastly, memory, yeah. Memory. Music is the best way to improve our memory with learning. This guy, Salceda, this is a pretty recent research. This is one of the ones that I've talked about. He conducted this research twice. It has not yet been duplicated, so we can't say that it's 100% true, but his results were quite significant. What he found is that he used 3 groups of students. He taught the first 2 groups, learning Spanish. He taught the first 2 groups using music, the same language functions. The third group he taught just with text. When the test came, he tested how much they remembered 2 weeks later. And for the first group, he played music while they were testing. The second group, no music. The third group, of course, no music. The first and second group, the ones that learned using music, had a significantly higher marks than the students that learned through text. They learned, so there could be a lot of factors. Again, it has not been duplicated, so we can't say for 100% sure. But the results are quite interesting. But anyway, he says that this is the perfect text. Music is the perfect text for teaching a foreign language. So how do we use songs for English language focus? Well, input, listening, output, and without stress. Because we don't want students to feel anxious, right? Anxious, we get the wall. We want them to feel happy. So we want to do things where they can actually output without feeling terrified. So if I point to you and say, hey, sing. What do you what? No. So we don't want to do that. We want to sing together. Unless the student wants to sing. She likes to sing, right? So if I say sing, you'll say, okay, la, la, la. Yeah? Okay. Grammar structures, especially with children's music, we want to keep it really simple, yeah? We want to have repeated grammar structures that they can use again and again and again. Pronunciation, sounds, and especially rhythm. When we're singing a song, we tend to follow, at least English songs, we tend to follow the natural rhythm. You might have heard, sometimes you'll hear a song and it's just kind of makes you uncomfortable. The reason being they're not following the natural rhythm, and it's kind of jarring to the ear. It makes you a little uncomfortable. At least for me, it makes me very uncomfortable. So music should follow the natural rhythm, and it encourages the students to use that rhythm when they speak. And of course, for vocabulary. we can increase the amount of vocabulary through songs. Shall we listen to a song? A Spanish song. Oh, besame culo. I do know one Spanish song. It means kiss me. Okay. Oh, not time for a song. Sorry. So how do we use it? We use it for listening, moving, singing, performing, and even writing. Actually, when I do this session, if I have 20 teachers, I make the teachers actually get together and write music. I give them a grammar point, and I say, write music. And they can really come up with stuff, yeah? I am running, watch me sweat, something like that, right? So the students can actually come up with something, or the teachers can come up with something easily. Students can do the same thing. All of these things come into play when we make all these strong connections when we're using music to do all of these different kinds of things. And you can use one song in 100 ways. You can use one song again and again and again in different ways, a variety of ways. Now are you ready to sing? Okay. Yay! Okay, what do you see here? Yeah, this is a hall of mirrors, right? What do you think the song is going to be about? Oh, very good. I can only hear the people right up front, unfortunately. I wish you all had mics. Oh, wait, no, I don't. Okay. So, body descriptions, yeah, body descriptions. So, probably going to hear some adjectives. What kind of adjectives are we going to hear? Big, long, bald. Did I hear bald? How many of your students are bald? Oh, so many students are bald. Okay. So, yeah, big, long, round, small. Actually, I'm going to tell you what the adjectives you're going to hear are, okay? They're going to be, I forgot. Big, you have it there, don't you? You guys have a cheat sheet. This activity is not going to be any fun. Okay. Instead of doing that activity, let me change. I want to look at the song. Actually, let's just listen one time first. Okay. So, here's the song. Actually, this comes from Going Places, which is our new textbook. This is the song. I want to see some action this time, yeah? So this time, we're going to listen again, but I want to have some action. So who can show me short? What action can I use for short? I'm looking. Oh, I like that one. Stand up. The one that wants to sing. Short. Okay, short. Short. That would be different places on different people, right? Some people will be... Okay, short. Good. Small. What's small? Oh, good. Yeah, I like that. Okay, or, two hands. That's even better. 2 hands. Small. Let's see it. Small. Small. Yeah, we have to use small voice. Okay, good. Long. Okay, long. Good. Long. When we do that, we have to be careful not to hit our next door neighbor, right? Okay, big. This one's good. This one's good. Okay, big. Big. I can point here. Big. You guys. Okay, good. So, oh my gosh, what did I do? Okay, so we're going to sing the song this time. Well, we're going to listen this time, sorry. But stand up. Whenever you hear an adjective, I want you to show me the sign, okay? You can choose to sing or not this time.
His hair is short.
Oh.
His ears are small. His eyes are small. His nose is small. Her hair is long. Her ears are big. Her eyes are big. Her nose is long.
Okay, I see some of you already doing it. Some of you already. This time I want you to actually sing sing, and I want you to touch the body part, yeah? Okay, you knew what was coming. This one's already doing it over here. Okay.
His hair is short, his ears are small, his eyes are small, his nose is small. Her hair is long, her ears are big, her eyes are big, her nose is long.
Okay, this time. You guys sit down on this side. This side first. We're going to see who can sing the loudest, yeah?
His neck is long, his hands are small, his arms are short, his legs are short.
Oh, it changed. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. When I'm doing this in my office, I never play this part. Okay, I'm sorry. My fault. Stand up. I'm thinking, you guys are terrible, and then I realize now. Okay, now we're going to do it. This is this one for sure.
His hair is short, his ears are small, his eyes are small, his nose is small.
Good, sit down.
Her hair is long,
Oh,
her ears are big, her eyes are big, her nose is long.
okay, wow. I'm sorry, you guys have it over here. I was planning to do boys versus girls, but then I realized there's only about 20 guys in here and about 150 women, so I think that might not be fair. Okay, good. So, I don't know about you, but I listen to this song, and then 15 minutes later, I'll be walking down the hall, and I'll be going, da-na-na-na, da-na-na-na. In fact, my colleague is always annoyed with me for the past couple of weeks when I've been using this song because I keep singing, na-na-na-na. So if you call my colleague, he'll say, yeah, I hate that song. But anyway. Okay, so music is fun to do. It's emotionally gratifying. You can use it in social ways, which I'll give you an example of. If I want to extend this activity, I can ask the students to draw a picture. Maybe not of a person, because then they make fun of each other. Maybe I'll get them to draw a monster. And then put the pictures on the wall, or get them in groups and get them to sing and try to guess which picture they're singing about. Is a nice follow-up to this activity, which brings in all of these other elements, which makes more connections, yeah? And it gives it a social aspect as well. So, songs are really good for remembering, for bringing a class together, for building that rapport, and for having fun. So, let's see what happens when I go here. Who can still sing the song? 1, 2, 3, 4. Wow, very good. Just from hearing it 3 or 4 times, right? Easy to remember. Puts the grammar is really stuck in there now. You got that grammar structure that you can use again and again and again and again. Okay, I'm running out of time here, I think. I need to get to stories. Stories have a similar effect. Actually, we are hardwired to hear stories. How many of you have told a story today? I don't believe you. Think really hard. How many of you have told a story today? I have told about, how many stories did I tell you in the car on the way over here? Oh, she's not with us anymore. I must have told her 10 stories in the car on the way over here, yeah? I told her about going out to eat last night, and I told her about my trip here in the airplane, and I told her about going to university. I told her many, many, many stories, yeah? We tell stories all the time, from the moment we wake up till the moment we go to bed, yeah? Did you sleep well? Oh, I had a nightmare. I dreamed that blah, blah, blah. That's a story. Hey, did you hear about that girl? She blah, 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 blah. That's a story, yeah? So we tell stories all the time. We like stories. Our brain really likes stories. Why does our brain like stories? For one thing, they have beginning, a middle, and an end. It gives us this thing called gestalt, this complete picture. And our brain is very happy with that, especially our hippocampus, which I haven't talked anything about. But anyway, it's very happy with that. Our brain, we also find emotional satisfaction from stories. Yeah? So let's talk about why. Okay. Is that for me? Okay. We get emotionally engaged in stories when we hear them. Why do we get engaged? Because we identify. We identify with the action that's going on in the story. Even if it's a dog. The main character is a dog, especially as a child can really identify. We actually have these cells in our brain that are like, they cause this identification to happen. And it happens every time you hear a story. If I start telling you about what I had for dinner last night, probably you'll think, I remember my first night in Seoul, and I went out to a restaurant, and you identify with what's happening, and you try to see how that relates to you, yeah? And we always do this with every story. We synchronize. Our brains actually synchronize with the story. I won't go too much into the detail here. There are actually chemical changes in our brain when we hear stories. There's one really important research that's actually for novels, not for children's stories, but they recorded the higher levels of oxytocin. Anybody know what oxytocin is? Yeah, it's a chemical that you take if you have like depression or something because it makes you happier. It increases your feeling of generosity and shared experiences. So they found that after these students read a novel, not a short story again, but they had increased levels of oxytocin in their blood for 3 days. So very interesting, yeah? So actually having chemical changes in their bodies. And last again, memory. Stories are a great memory aid. We remember stories much, 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 much longer than we remember grammar points. Yeah? If I tell you a story about grammar, you'll remember that much more than you will if I give you the grammar rule, story. So let's do a little exercise. Let's do a little exercise. In your book, you'll see there is a story missing some words. Missing some words. I want you to work with your partner to see if you can guess what these words are. I'm not going to give you very long, actually, because I'm running out of time. Okay, let's go through and see how you did, eh? Let's go see how you did. The family gets ready for the... It's a good guess, but it's wrong. Yeah, beach. How do you know it's beach? Yeah, you see the surfboard and the... But trip is a good guess. Where's Bonnie? Says Mom. Boys, go look in your... Okay, room or bedroom, right? How do I know it's bedroom? Oh, you see the next picture. Oh, yeah, I forgot. If you don't see the picture, you have to guess. Okay. The boys look in the... Bonnie isn't under the... She isn't in the... Very good. What do you see in the closet? You see lots of toys and stuff, yeah? Bonnie isn't in the... Kitchen. That's where they are now, yeah? Go look in the study, says Mom. Oh, says Mom. Good. What's a study? My Korean colleague said you guys would not know what a study is. Do you know what a study is? What is it? Oh, in Korean it's kodae. Kodae. I'm scared. Okay, it's the same it's kind of like an office. Sometimes we use study, sometimes we use office, but it can also be a place where the children go to study. Okay. The boys look in the study. Yeah, kodae. Bonnie isn't under the desk. She isn't. Good. They go to the. Yeah, you guys are good. They hear Bonnie. Bonnie is on the. I heard it over here. Who said that? Ding, 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 ding. On the surfboard. Surfboard. What's a surfboard? A board for surfing, yeah? Bonnie is ready. Oh, Bonnie is ready for the. Says Mom. Let's go then, says Dad. Okay, it's a happy ending. Yay! Okay, so have you ever lost anything? You never lost anything? Let's do a little activity here now. So you see we have the whole story here. I want you to work with the person sitting next to you. I want you to, 2 people or 3 people, I don't care. One person tell the story to the other person. Not reading, just telling the story in their own words. Okay? Tell the story to the person. Not reading the story, telling the story. So don't look at your pictures in your book. All right, very good. Okay, we're going to do this one more time. You have 2 people, right? So now the other person is going to tell the story. But, no words. No speaking. No speaking. Stand up. You need to stand up for this one, right? So, tell the story again, but no words. No speaking. Should be dead quiet.
Sure.
The people in the back have given up. All right. Fantastic. Have a seat. Some of you are really good. These guys over here, she's doing a really fantastic job. Good job. You guys are doing a really good job over here as well. Very good. What's the point of doing that? That's a silly, silly exercise, isn't it? But what's the point of it? The point is always to make new connections. The point here also is to go a deeper level. Even though that seems like a really silly, silly exercise, you have to really think about every word in that story in order to do that, right? It's a much, much more complicated and cognitive activity that you're doing. You have to really think about, how do I say, I'm going to have to do surfboard, but how do I make that into a coherent story, just using my body? So this is really, even though it seems really, really stupid, if the students doing it, they really, there's a lot going on up here. There's a lot of connections being made up here, both cognitively, emotionally, all sorts of things are happening. So don't be scared to try things that seem kind of ridiculous, even though if you think it might actually trigger more activity up here. Okay, I kind of skipped a bunch here. How can we use stories? What kind of things can we do? We can Just listen. Just listening to stories helps students with getting vocabulary and grammar and all of these kinds of different things from the story. When you're telling a story, you're the star, right? If you're telling a story, act it up, ham it up. Get the students really involved with that story. Remember, sensory, even just thinking about sensory things triggers those sensory neurons. So if it's dark and scary, make sure that it's dark and scary. You know, if it's happy, make sure it's. If it's cold, make sure they understand that it's cold. You know, really get into the story. You're an actor. You're a performer. Sometimes, it helps to do that. Predicting, you predicted the words there. This is a good way. What's the end of this story? That's a good one as well. Or what's the beginning of this story? So predicting is also triggering a lot. Reading is always good. Reading has been shown to increase the skills in all other areas. So simply reading helps you with your speaking, helps you with your listening, helps you with your grammar, all these other areas. Drawing pictures about the story, especially if you're telling a story and you're having them draw as you're telling. That's always a fun activity. Getting students to retell the story. That might be by just using the body. Get them to write a song about the story. Get them to retell the story in a number of different ways. Again, it's all about making more connections to what the learning is. Acting out or making a video, because nowadays we can do that, right? We can make videos, which is quite fun. Okay. We'll skip to the end of this. I'm not going to talk too much about this because I'm out of time. But this is a really nice, and you have this link in your book, so I would highly recommend you have a look at this. This lady her name is Sprunger, and she's called the Brain Lady. And she has a couple of books that are really worth checking out. And then she has several things online that are free. She calls this her From Short to Long-Term Memory in 7 Steps. So I would recommend you have a look at it. Basically, it's reach means get attention. Reflect means make connections to their lives. Usually if I'm doing this story, I'll say, have you lost anything? What did you lose? Where did you find it? Where did you look? So that they see that this could happen to them as well. Recode. This is what you did. Acting out the story in another way. Retelling the story. Acting out the story, doing something with that story. Reinforce comes from you as the teacher. It means when you see something good, you point it out. I don't want to go too far. Just pointing out what they're doing right. Yeah. Rehearse, again, extending the activity to apply it to higher level order thinking skills. Review and retrieve. Retrieve is all about assessment. And the clock on the wall says that I am done. So again, I recommend you, if you want to know more about this in detail, please go to the website and have a look. Here's what I want you to think about. How can I get every child engaged in the learning process? How can I make a class that is inclusive of every student? So that means the student who likes singing, the student who likes reading, the student that hates everything, the student that, I want all of these students, the student that tested a low IQ, the student that tested with a high IQ. I want all of these students engaged. How do I do that? How can I create an environment that is comfortable and challenging? And lastly, how can I expand my curriculum? And this is the toughie, right? Because everybody has a full curriculum, I know. How can I expand that curriculum to include songs and stories? Don't think of songs and stories as extra. Think of them as integral. They should be a part of your curriculum. Okay, I did it again. I don't have any time for questions. I told you I wouldn't. If you do have any, first of all, there's the resources that I didn't put in there. I'm happy to email you this. I can even email you a full page of all the resources I use for any research if you want to. There's my email. So I will pass the mic on now to you. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day.